Hi, Blythe. It's really good to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you too.
Before we start our session today, I would just like to remind you that this is a safe place to express your real thoughts and your real emotions, no matter how random they might seem. I am not here to judge you. I'm just here to provide a listening ear and provide some insight into whatever you might be struggling with right now. Are you ready to start?
Yeah, I think so.
Perfect. So let's just begin with discussing what's brought you in today.
Well, I guess I've been feeling overwhelmed because I'm not living up to everyone's expectations of me. It's hard for me to be assertive when I have a problem or need help, which is making my job more difficult for me.
Okay. So can you tell me maybe a little bit more about how work has been more difficult for you because of this?
Yes, well, sometimes I'm nervous about asking for help when I need it. And, especially at a new job that I'm working at, I don't want to seem like I don't know what I'm doing or I'm not qualified. And I made a mistake this past week. And instead of asking for help like I should have, my boss yelled at me and told me to be more assertive.
Hmm. Okay. Well, that can be really difficult. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you felt when she was telling you that you needed to be more assertive and when she yelled at you?
Um, I felt like I felt like she meant to embarrass me or was judging me. I don't know if she meant to, but it made me feel like I wasn't doing enough and she couldn't rely on me.
Okay. So your boss's comment, from what I'm hearing, triggered something in you, maybe a feeling of not being good enough. And when reflecting on this feeling, when was the first time that you remember maybe feeling this way?
Hmm. I guess maybe when I was a kid, my parents always had really high expectations of me, like in school with my grades and also in sports. And if I didn't do things perfectly, they'd get upset at me. And I never felt like I was good enough.
Mm, okay. So when you were younger, you felt like if you didn't meet certain expectations, you were letting your parents down. Um, can you think of a specific moment or maybe two moments from your childhood when you felt that way?
Yeah, I remember one time at one of my soccer games, I missed a goal and my team ended up losing because of me. And my dad didn't say anything at first, but I could tell he was disappointed. And then later when we got in the car after the game, he yelled at me and said that I was wasting his money because if I was just going to be bad at playing soccer, then why was he paying for me to be on the team? If I was just going to screw up and not do a good job.
Mm,
And there was also other times, like with my grades, they always expected me to have like straight A's. And there was this one class that I had. It was a chemistry class, and it was really challenging for me, and I was doing the best that I could. I studied and everything and I tried, but um, I ended up making a C in that class. And yeah, they were really mad at me, told me that, I was going to be a failure
Mm.
in life.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Well, those both sound like some really painful moments, and it seems like you were experiencing a lot of pressure in both of those situations. Um, can you tell me what went through your mind at whenever you were in these situations?
I just thought, like, wow, I'll never be good enough for him, you know? And I just felt sad.
Mm,
Like, no matter how hard I tried, I would never measure up and just always be a disappointment.
mm, okay. So, from my understanding, in that moment, you internalized the idea that you would never be good enough, especially in your father's eyes. And that feeling has seemed to have stuck with you. Now, I would like us to move into using an exercise called free association, if you're comfortable with it, where I will provide you with a few words and you'll just say, the first words that come to mind. And during this exercise, don't think too much about the words that you use. Don't worry about censorship or, what I'm going to think. Just whatever flows naturally.
Okay.
Okay. So the first word that we're going to use is father.
High expectations, judgmental, stress, sadness.
Okay. And the next word that we're going to use is manager or boss.
Stressful, judgmental,
Mm,
inadequate, incompetent.
okay. So when you're looking at um, these words, do you see any similarities or themes in the words that you provided for father and manager or boss?
Yes, I see that there are similarities in the feelings that I have towards both my father and my boss of just not being good enough.
So now when we're thinking about the conversation with your manager and what we just discussed with your father, does anything come to mind?
Yeah, it's kind of the same feeling with my manager. It's like I felt like I had gone back in time, when I was 12 again on that soccer field, or in school when I had made that bad grade. And again, it didn't matter what I did, it was not good enough.
So in that situation, in psychoanalysis, we call that transference. And basically, that's just when you form a connection between, you know, an event or someone that happened, and you're kind of placing those feelings from your past onto something in your present and your world that you're living now. So um, it sounds like to me like there's a connection between how you felt with your father and how you're feeling now in the workplace. Um, it's as if your manager's comment activated those old feelings of inadequacy or not being good enough. And do you think there's a part of you that feels like your boss is in some way maybe like your parents?
That's interesting. I've never really thought of it like that, but I guess I do kind of expect her to be disappointed in me. Like just always how I felt with my father.
So it seems like from an outside perspective, like you might be transferring some of those feelings of needing to meet expectations or, having a lot of pressure, or inadequacy and those feelings of not being good enough, maybe from your father onto and your experiences with your father onto your manager or your boss. And your experiences with her are you're kind of feeling that same reaction as whenever you had those negative experiences with your father.
That makes a lot of sense. I never thought about it that way. It's like I'm expecting her to be disappointed in me. Even though she hasn't shown that she would be, it's almost like I'm reliving my childhood fears with her.
Mm, yeah, exactly. So when you're thinking about this now and thinking about it from this perspective of transference or transferring your feelings, do you notice any particular emotions or thoughts that come up when you think about this transference?
I guess I feel a little embarrassed. Um, like I've been carrying these old fears around without realizing it. But I also feel a little more relieved, like I don't have to carry that pressure anymore, or at least not in the same way.
Hmm. I think that's a great insight and a valuable insight, to notice that you've been carrying those fears, those old fears around, and you haven't been realizing it. And maybe in these situations, it's not the same, and your boss doesn't feel disappointed in you like your parents did, or your father like would say they were. And then, I mean, now that you're aware of how those old feelings are influencing your current situation, we can work on finding ways to separate your past experiences with your father or other childhood experiences from your present ones, and in this case, from your work life.
That that sounds good. Yeah. I think I'm starting to understand more about how these things connect, and it's starting to feel like a weight is lifting.
Mm. Yeah. I'm I'm really glad that you're starting to make these connections and starting to connect some of your past issues with your you know, present struggles. So how are you feeling now?
Um, I feel better. I feel lighter actually. Like, that weight has been lifted, and I think I'm starting to see things from a new perspective. It's kind of changing my point of view so that I don't know. I don't have to automatically assume that I'm a disappointment to everyone every time I go to do something.
Hmm. I think that's a great way to think and a great way to alter your thinking, um, to improve your daily life even. And I mean, I'm glad to hear that. So let's continue exploring these insights next time. in the next session and see how they unfold for you. And I'm really glad that you were able to share and be open today. And I just want to thank you for your openness. And I'll see you in the next session.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Bye.